and welcome back to Love Your Food. This week we have these really delicious and simple crispy vegetarian egg rolls. Now these are vegetarian but not vegan. We do use egg to seal them shut. But before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone that we have an affiliate link with Chef's Temp. If you need a kitchen thermometer or meat probe, please check out the link in the description below and use code LOVEYOURFOOD on checkout for 15% off your order. We also have a Patreon, and I'll put a link for that as well. And here's our ingredients. So we have some Springroll skins, some cabbage, some sesame oil, some carrot, ginger, garlic, some green onions, some egg, again just for egg wash to seal it, some bean sprouts, some dehydrated reconstituted mushrooms, some rice wine vinegar, and some soy sauce. So first thing we're going to do is get our veggies ready, our mise en place done. Now, typically we would cut these into long, thin strips. Now, they're a little bit tough and a little stringy that way, so we're just going to cut these on a pretty deep bias so they don't, make those big long strips that are really tough to bite through. For the ginger and the garlic, we are just going to chop those really finely. We're not going to make them into a paste like we did for the crab rangoon last week, but we are going to chop them pretty finely. We do want them to be present in the final mix, but we don't want to have like big chunks of them. So we're just going to, they don't need to be pretty or anything. The carrots we're going to cut into panels, again on a pretty deep bias. And then we're going to cut the panels into strips. And we'll just leave them as pretty wide, long strips like that. They're going to soften before we put them into the egg rolls. Or spring rolls, I should say. I apologize. Now, for the garlic, much like the ginger, it doesn't have to look pretty. We just want it pretty small. And we're just going to give that a really nice chop. Now, I said at the beginning this is vegetarian but not vegan. If you buy the right spring roll skins and you don't use egg to seal it shut, these can be vegan. For the cabbage, we're just going to make sure it's all nicely shredded like that. And then into a pan with some neutral oil, we're going to add the cabbage, the carrots, the ginger, and the garlic. We're not going to add the green onions just yet. Those are going to go in at the very end. A little bit of salt in there. And we just want to get those coated with the oil and let them reduce a little bit. We want to let them sort of wilt a bit. And just give them a little cook to start. So there you go. They're all combined in there. And we're just going to let those cook down for a little while. Once they've started to soften a little bit, we're going to add in our bean sprouts. And bean sprouts can actually take much more cooking than it seems like they should be able to take. So we're just going to let those cook for some time. Mix everything together in there. Now you don't want to oversalt this. You don't want to add a huge amount of salt because we are going to be adding our sort of cooking sauce later, which is going to be the soy sauce and the rice wine vinegar and the sesame oil. And the soy sauce is quite salty. So we're going to cover that and let everything kind of steam in there for a bit. Meanwhile, we're going to take out our reconstituted dehydrated mushrooms. We've got some shiitake and these little woodear mushrooms. And we're just going to cut these into pretty small pieces. If you want to leave them in strips, you can. We're just going to give them a little chop. And for the shiitake mushroom, we're going to cut off the stem first, because it gets kind of woody, especially in those dehydrated mushrooms. And for the actual mushroom cap, we're just going to cut those into pretty thin strips, and that's going to add a really nice flavor and texture into your spring rolls. And those are going to go in right before we sort of mix everything or roll everything up in our spring roll skins. So now we're going to assemble our sauce as well. So in goes the soy sauce. In goes our rice wine vinegar. And we'll also be adding our sesame oil at this point. Now, this filling that we're making in the pan can actually be used for a bunch of different things. We actually used part of it for the spring rolls and part of it for a stir fry, so it's very versatile. So here's our mixture. You can see it's much softer now. Everything has started to cook in there. The cabbage has wilted a bit. The carrots are starting to soften a little bit. All those great aromatics are adding their flavors. So we're going to add in our sauce. And then we're just going to let this cook a little bit further down. You want to make sure that everything gets a good contact with the sauce so that flavor just spreads through the whole thing. Now's a great time to add in our green onions. So that's going to come in at this point. And again, we're just going to stir that to make sure that everything's well combined. And once that's ready, we are going to, you can see us dividing it a little bit here. Chef Caleb's only going to take part of it for these spring rolls. And we're going to add that to the bowl that already has those chopped dehydrated mushrooms, the ones we reconstituted. Now the water you use to rehydrate the mushrooms, you should hold on to that. It's got a lot of flavor in it. You can use it for lots of different things. Here's our egg wash. This is just to seal things shut. You can also just use water if that's easier. The egg wash works a little bit better, but water will do the trick for that. So you don't want to overfill your spring rolls. You want to make sure you are, not busting them open because those skins can be quite tender. They will break open if you overfill them and try and just squish it all in there. And then it's basically just like a burrito roll. So you want to make sure that all of your corners are locked up and sealed, and seal it with your egg wash or with a little bit of water. There you go. We've got a nice lineup of them. We're not experts at this, so they're not all perfect, but they don't need to be. They're going to taste just fine. And these are going to go in our deep fryer. You can also use just a cast iron Dutch oven or whatever you use for deep frying and drop them. It's easier if you drop them in a basket, but if you don't have a basket, you can just fish them out with a spider or a strainer or whatever's easier for you. So we're just going to cook those until they are nice and crispy on the outside. We like there to be some little toasty bits as well. And here they are. They're done. They're super crispy on the outside. Nice. They're well cooked through on the inside. A little bit of soy sauce and sesame oil, or a homemade plum sauce makes a great accompaniment for this. And that's it. They're really, really delicious. Quite simple, and we hope you'll give these ones a try. If you like this recipe, please do like and subscribe. And if you have any recipes you'd like to see Chef Caleb try on the channel, please let us know in the comments below. We'd like to thank our patrons over on Patreon. I'll put a link for that in the description below as well if you'd like to support us there. And remember to love your food.